Okay, so let's enter more world. Okay, so it should not be the world, it should be the event because these are two different locations. So today we're going to talk about education in VR. So it is a virtual reality talk show called Theory of Everything, which is a topic about... Okay, great.
I bet after leaving a bad area, war zone.
Which area?
Where did you leave from? From Ukraine to Scotland?
Uh, mm. Before in Ukraine, I live in Kiev. It's
In Kiev. My grandmother,
dangerous.
my
Dangerous.
my great grandmother's Jewish. They departed from Kiev,
Oh,
Ukraine,
it's
many years ago to the United States.
Hmm.
Back then, they were killing
yes.
people on the streets too. My grandmother, she just turned 99 years old. Her mom, my great grandmother, migrated from Kiev, Ukraine.
Yes,
This is years ago.
it's
Oh yeah, but
it's
it's very sad. It's
his-
sad to see
it's history of Kiev. Yes, many Jewish
lot of-
people.
Jewish people were
live-
being murdered when my great grandmother left from the Ukraine. They were shooting Jews in the streets. A lot of European nations turned over their Jews too. They were so-called democratic countries. Not like the Nazis had to go into some of these countries in the Poland. They rounded up their Jews and turned them over. So it's I don't know. Every country around the world, man, is definitely tribulations of life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I
But
just...
I'm glad you're in Scotland.
I was looking through the... Oh, let me amplify myself. Actually, I've been looking through the recordings of the events, and I remember how some of the discussions went into that direction. And I remember how I think it was Wayland who said that actually we remember about Nazis and how terrible were their actions at that time, but sometimes we just forget how many he said, like, how many Hitlery things are being done today in different parts of the world. So I think just realizing that actually and is the first step towards being more compassionate and getting into the more peaceful state of world, I think.
Like the women in Iran. I was watching the
Yeah.
documentary yesterday,
Afghanistan,
and
like
they're being
Taliban took over.
victimized.
Yeah, in China,
Yeah,
there are like the big camps of people who are of the different.
These are
Yeah.
big camps.
Mm-hmm. In every country, basically, we can find some atrocities that are being made, and I believe we can overcome that because the level of development of people is changing rapidly, and I think it's almost uncomfortably fast, the transformations that we see all over the world, because information is so much more available and is spread so much faster. We can learn about many things much faster than we could in the past. So hopefully that will be a good start for changing the mentality and then changing the actions.
What do you think with the advancement of technologies being advanced the way that we are with the sciences, the CERN Research Center with the new particles that we've discovered and the advancement of trying to harvest the power of our own planet to go from a type 0 population to a type 1 population to where we can harvest the energy of our planet and be more productive towards humanity. The problem is when you start talking like that, religious people will get mad at me and say, you want a one world government, blah, blah, blah. Well, without the one world government, we're all sitting around complaining about atrocities that are going around the world, regardless whether it's inequality in the U.S., whether it's women in Iran being attacked or whatnot. If we don't come to a consideration of a government that supports all people, then what alternative is it? Is
Yeah.
it self-annihilation?
I think that the what you mentioned, the people's mentality, is the first thing that is going to be the first driver of the change, because when people's thinking is going to change, think about the AI maybe or robotics. When you talk to people about these things, their concepts and ideas about these things are based on Hollywood and based on some little pieces of information from here and there, and they don't. And mostly it has a bad negative I would say
Yeah,
like
I
temperature
agree.
rather than positive, because they don't
That
learn.
iRobot movie
Mhm.
scared me.
Yeah, yeah,
The iRobot Will Smith movie,
yeah,
where
yeah.
they had all the robots that were,
Yeah, that was a trip.
that was kind
I
of
remember
scary.
Yeah, but once you start teaching people about and learning more about the greatest changes that we have today in our everyday lives because of these technologies, and when you start seeing that beautiful picture of the world that we have here, I think I love the space that we have here, and I love the how creative people get, and instead of seeing only darker, I would say, pictures of the world, it doesn't help. It kind of makes you more comfortable about the reality, because you think, oh, it could be so much worse, and that's why it's fine, it's good. Like, I think that's the main narrative that people have when they talk about these atrocities. Even today, many people, they say that, oh, it's better to have a strong leader, because otherwise we would be, our country would, be devastated, or destructed. Our nation would be destructed by another, some enemy, invisible enemy. But at the same time, when you compare your reality to something better, you start thinking like, wow, there's so many pockets of the universe that we don't use. We can create so many things with what we have today, and not only optimizing the governments, as you said, right, but also changing the perception of people every day. I think that would change the situation so dramatically, where locally people could create something locally, and then when they find other people who create something similar, they could unite into bigger clusters and create the reality, so people, like the majority of the humankind, could have some idea of what the future could be, and get inspired by that and say, hey, maybe there's something better than what we have right now, and maybe we should improve what we are doing and make our planet comfortable place to live on, because we are not sure that we have any other options. And to be honest, our technologies are very far from being able to take us somewhere else. So we should start with the project that you have.
Interstellar travel.
Yeah, they say before you start the business, first try your hypothesis. So first try to save your own planet and then go to the next one. Yeah. Okay, great. So what do you guys think about education in VR? Because we've got this huge, great community of educators in VR. I wish we could plan, well, yeah, we definitely will plan something together later, but today let's just talk about your perception of VR. I'm sure that you have some good experience in using VR. Maybe before you start speaking, maybe you can share how long you've been in VR, and what have you been doing, and maybe do you have some ideas how the education could be how it could be evolved and improved with implementation of these VR technologies. What do you guys think? I think the first idea that came to my mind was about learning about geography in different places in the world. Because every time I come to VR, I keep seeing these globes, right? And more of a general perspective of our planet, which makes me think of so many places that I never visited in my life. And maybe I have a chance to go to some places that I would never be able to visit in real life. Like, once I got to a VR world here in Altspace, that was a desert, I think a couple of times. It was like a very real desert. And by wandering in that desert, I could get some idea of how does it feel to be in this vast, clear, open space, which is at the same time is a little bit scary because you walk and you never get to the edge of it. So some of that would be interesting. What do you guys think?
I agree with you about the geography, and I always like seeing this because it also reminds us of our oneness, our humanity, and that we're all on this floating rock together. So I really like looking at that when we're in here. Um, Also, there's a world here in alt space that Nico made of the solar system,
Oh
and
yeah.
you've probably all been to it. You can literally fly uh, from planet to
Oh
planet. You
yeah,
can
that's
look at all the
cool.
different moons that each planet has, and I believe the size is accurate, comparative size to one another.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
yeah, it's amazing, and it could really be used for that purpose, educating people on, would that be astronomy,
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
suppose? Or, yeah,
Speaking of which,
that's
also I've seen some worlds where like one world was a good copy of Mars, and it had different models of Mars. Rovers and like the engines and everything was pretty correct, and it was funny to like, not funny, I never had a chance to get there, but it was really cool that some people had excursions, and some real specialists from the real world, from astronomy, experts, they would come and read lectures about these different types of rovers and everything. And Helion, he keeps reading different interesting lectures about physics and space in different places. Like that makes it much easier to explain, because you can just like point it in one direction and explain. We had one event about popular science where he had like a great page that he opened for all of us about the Lagrange points. That those are like some points where you could stay out of the vortexes, let's say, of space, because like when you have these turbodynamics, there are some different waves of air on top and from the sides of any object, and there are some vortexes where you can just have some more of a balance. So it was just interesting to learn in details about these things, or maybe James Webb telescope pictures. You could learn so much from real people, and it. In my case, for example, I always remember better when real people explain some things to me, because I can not only ask questions, but there's some personal connection between me and that person who is telling me that story, so which makes it much more relevant in my mind. So, okay. Have you
Well, I,
had...
I think educated in VR is very important. For one thing,
Mhm.
it's to understand the theory of everything and how big and vast, to even wrap our mind around the universe. When we look at what Carl Sagan said about the small blue dot that we live on, it's covered 2/3 with water. 75% of the Earth is covered with water. That only leaves 1/3 of the planet's land mass that can support habitable lands and resources that 7.8 billion humans fight and kill for. That's what we're fighting for. So when people look at the globe as, well, where are you from? Or I think that they kind of put themselves in space time as to maybe prop themselves up bigger than what we really are, because we're so finite to the vastness of the universe. We understand the four forces of nature that we've had. We've had this since Aristotle. We have the the weak nuclear force, the strong nuclear force. We have the magnetic force, we have the gravitational force. We understand that we're being pulled and dragged through space-time due to the curvature of space from mass. Mass is curving space-time, and we're being pulled through space-time. But when we start looking at the theory of everything, and we're trying to interact physics into the equation, we're probably about 4% knowledgeable, trying to unlock all the secrets of the universe. But one of the biggest fundamentals of physics is that I've always had a question with, and I'm wrestling with, is why is the arrow of space-time moving forward? How come it's not moving backwards? It's just because maybe space-time is moving backwards in a parallel universe. It's going backwards and we're going forward. But at some time, I think that mass transforms into energy, and energy transforms back into mass. And I think that consciousness goes on, and I think life regenerates itself along with space-time. Dark matter and everything is all, complexity, together. I think that we share a lot of the elements, just like the scientists and the astrophysicists are saying. Same the same matter and everything that makes up the stars makes up us.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's a continuum. That's just my theory of the theory. And then, like Michio Kaku has stated with his string theory, when he says the theory of everything, there are gazillions of galaxies, gazillions of universes. We're just one bubble of infinite bubbles that we just can't see it because we're in the third dimension, and there's 11 dimensions, 12 dimensions, I think they're up to now. So.
Yeah. Even the maths, when you talk about the equations that that support these theories, they're done actually at 11 dimensions, and like 16 dimensions, I think, like something crazy like that. And we have like 4, and I'm like, where's the rest? I've been
like
thinking
4,
about it, like just a couple of days. Yeah.
It's very mind-boggling. But the only thing that I would say with the education in VR is, or I would see with VR, because I've been in VR since 2016, when I first had my first Samsung S6 cell phone with the headset to come on AltSpace. So you had Second Life, High Fidelity. There were other apps, of course, that were around. But where I see the VR is headed is, there has to be a marketing for it. And then we also have kind of, we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot too, because I bought 4 headsets, one headset for myself and then one for my daughters and my wife. But in California, they put a disclaimer on the side of the box that says make cause reproductive on the side of the VR headset box. So they want nothing to do with VR. So, I mean, these are little challenges where we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. I would have thought, honestly, during the lockdown of COVID and everything, VR would have taken off like a rocket. And it just hasn't. I mean, look at Zuckerberg lost billions of dollars. Although I kind of critique her right because it looks kind of classic to me. It looks kind of like not as developed as AltSpace, or maybe it's because they gotta have so many people in there that they don't want it to crash. So the world is kind of a lot more cartoonish, and the avatars aren't as developed and these kind of things. But that's just my personal opinion of Zuckerberg's tribulation with the metaverse right now. It seems to be a marketing issue, and it does. Can educators work in VR? There's no doubt in my mind, that we could really convey. And worldwide, we could come together, intellectuals, to discuss, some of the fundamentals of the universe and try to answer why we're here. What's the purpose of life, and what direction is it? We're here just to breathe air and oxygen. Oxygen, let out hydrogen, and then we die, and that's it. I find that to be kind of really
depressing.
Oblique, but yeah.
Yeah. Those are very important questions that we actually discussed in previous meetings, and life purpose definitely was on the list, and the meaning of life. So these are very interesting, philosophical questions even. And I love how different people have different personalities and their opinions about it. And I remember how Halion actually started the event by saying, I think that there's no meaning of life. And he was so cheerful. And he's always very cheerful. And he said, I just love that we can enjoy life and just, give what it takes, to just enjoy the marvels of the world, and just, do everything we can do just to make it meaningful. And also, Paul, he said, thought that the meaning of life is only the meaning that you give it to. So it's another interesting topic. We'll definitely repeat it.
That's a good point.
Yeah. You can also have, I do have a YouTube channel and playlist where you can maybe find some of these recordings and listen to what other people say. But definitely it's going to be an interesting topic to rediscuss. Yay. Okay. So, anybody else want to join the conversation and maybe give a new, fresh perspective to the education in VR, or just in general to the questions that we discussed?
What were some of those questions you asked earlier?
I'll be back, man. My headphones are dying. I can't hear anything, so I'll be back.
Okay. Come back.
Yeah, please.
Hi, Sam. Oh, I see
think
it's
I think
your
it brings
first
a new
time here, right?
medium to-
Hey,
Hey, Sam.
yeah, I came in like a year ago, but yeah, I haven't really been using AltSpace for a while.
Oh, cool.
Sorry, what was the question at the start?
So the general question that we are discussing today is education and how it could be, merged with VR or maybe adapted, or anything could be used in education, and somehow we could change it using VR. But I think anything you hear and anything you find curious and you would like to, segue into, and that's totally fine. We can just express your opinion, and it's an open floor. We can all share this common, field of information, so that way we can have some new thoughts based on what other people say. So yes, we thought about geography that could be improved by VR approach, maybe about physics and astrology, astronomy. Come on, I have always this fear that I'm gonna use astrology instead of astronomy, just because these words are similar. So yeah, and learn more about the stars and physical laws. It's gonna be a very easy way to teach. So I've been also planning to bring my language lessons in here too, because there are so many things you can see, and if you use a headset, your brain actually gets used to seeing your hands and your people around you, that it starts reacting as in real life. And we always know that the live-in partner is always much more activating for our brain than any other video or recording. So that's why I think it's going to be a useful tool to teach languages in mostly English for people. So you can use different objects as 3D references to what you're discussing, and that's definitely something that I should give it a try and see how it works. Yeah, because I realized
all your lectures, based off all your lectures, to get to kind of a very a deep thought, to get everybody's opinion. Do you think that we're just random out of all these billions and trillions and gazillions of planets and stars and everything? Do you think we're just random, like a mistake that just happened and we shouldn't be in existence? Or do you think that there is a matrix of regenerating life pool throughout the universes and what we're dealing with? I mean, is it just randomness? And life really doesn't have a purpose. We're just born, and whatever happens through causation and effect, and that's it. It's just all random, and it's just spontaneously poof from a big bang, and boom, we're here, and that's it.
Watching some YouTube videos here, right? Or anything else that we do today. They're so just interesting. Guys, what do you guys think? Because I have some answers, but I would love to hear somebody else saying, so I don't steal your answers.
Right. I don't think we're just. I don't know. I think it's too, like, we're doing this and we're creating more multiverses through what we do as people or whatever, and I don't know if it's a purpose there, but I don't feel like it's just random. I don't feel like if it was just randomness, I don't think it would have came like that. I think there must have been some intent somewhere, even if we're just one of billions out of this planet and all the other planets. I think there was still some intent there. So I don't know what it is, what we're building for or toward, but I think there is something. I don't know, it just seems like it doesn't seem random to me to be for my conscience to develop as such. It seems like something was there. Because if we were just part of because we're not part of the natural flow, I don't think, because we're so flawed. Like we get cold, we get hot. If we were a part of the natural universe, then we would perfectly be as it is, and wouldn't live and die. So.
Okay. Anybody else?
I don't know. That was my thoughts.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, I totally get you. Any other answers?
I don't know about randomness, but I've sometimes thought, like when you look for a microscope and see all the tiny little cells sort of like moving around, like wondering whether we're like one of those cells and actually Yeah, like someone could look through a microscope at us, you know, like see boats moving around, but actually they don't see them as boats. You know, like you see them as cells or something. You know.
Micro
But
world.
Yeah, I don't know if it's not really. Like, yeah, I'm not sure about randomness though. It's an interesting thought.
With those individual cells that you're looking at on a test plate through a microscope, as meaningless as they seem, moving around, do you think they have consciousness? Are they self-aware?
Yeah, or primitive creatures that we think that.
Very, very deep when you get into what consciousness is. Because consciousness, you're born with it, it expires with you, but consciousness still exists even after I'm dead, I'm gone. Consciousness is still there. Consciousness will be in you after I'm dead. It'll be in all of us, the living, I will say, after I'm dead. So, does consciousness just regenerate itself? And that's where I'm getting into where these where these astrophysicists will say what makes up the stars makes up us. We're stardust. So if that's the case, then we all are part of an ecosystem of universe and space-time as Earth is being dragged through the time continuum of space-time. So the development of what consciousness is, can consciousness leave the body and transform into life after death, into a different realm that we just can't see? Because there's other parallels, universes, there's other dimensions that we're just not aware of. We're self-aware, but we're self-aware within our three-dimensional space, you know, in the fourth being space-time. And we understand that our arrow of space-time is going forward. But in another universe, that same consciousness could be going backwards. So it would, to me, it would kind of like a loop around where it just continues to create itself over and over and over again. And we're living different experiences in different lives. I don't know. That's kind of a mind-boggling concept. And just getting into, you know,
Samsara there, right? Into Buddhism and those concepts of.
Yeah, I don't want to dive into religions and everything, and then it just turns into, well, somebody wrote it in this book, so it must be true, and you know, you must be like one of the Muslims was telling me. I was ignorant because in their Quran it says the person that doesn't believe in a deity is a fool. Well, I'm not the person that doesn't believe in creation. We are created. What created us is the fundamental question. Are we stardust? Did it come from space-time and energy? Or is there some old man up in the heavens looking down on us and this is just a big Milton Bradley game? I just created you, you'll do what I tell you to do. Bow to me, worship me. I find that a very hard concept to believe, that something all-knowing, all-powerful would need to be worshipped 50 times a day or whatnot. I don't know. But the science, the particles that we discovered in physics, we just recently discovered within the last 100 years, what is the Higgs boson and other particles in physics.
Muons. There's so many actually.
Still trying to grasp a lot of these concepts, but those forces of nature are there, and they're there whether I'm alive or not. The four forces, you know, the gravitational forces and the nuclear forces, those are there. That's what has us on a VR headset right now. So is that, you know, a grand design creator, or is this, you know, spontaneous, where we look at the nebula in space and you can see the formations of stars being born? And if you could see the stars being born, which is what the James Webb Telescope, you know, made a more clearer picture than what the Hubble Telescope just recently, I think, done last week. If you could see the stars are being formed in that nebula, what's creating those stars? And these are concepts that, and if we're going to go from a type 0 species to a type 1 species, we're going to have to understand that energy. That way we can use the energy. Otherwise, we're never going to leave the planet Earth. We will self-annihilate, like the way Stephen H. Hawkins only gave us 100 years for survival of humanity. So when we're looking at education in VR, I think bringing these concepts into light to where we could be universal, because, you know, I do feel privileged. Although the VR headset doesn't cost much, it costs a lot to somebody in India. Not everybody can afford a VR headset. So that's some of the, you know, those are some of the barriers that we have with bringing everybody into VR, especially education in VR. But, these are very, very I mean, it makes my head, it makes my cranium hurt just trying to decipher how vast the universe is. It's such, we're just seeing a very small snapshot
Yeah,
of the Milky
mhm.
Way.
True, true.
But
That very
we've been traveling
thought.
through space-time.
Yeah, that very
Yeah,
thought I
yeah.
think changes the capacity of your mind basically, because when you understand the scale of things and when you realize that all we know and we think, sometimes I think about the mind being, because consciousness is one thing, but also memory. It's another good thing to talk about, because memory is like, we never had like serious, development and evolution until one cell decided to store the information, and DNA, some prototype of DNA, was invented, let's say, by life, and that's why the information could be passed on. And same with us, like we have to pass the same stages every single time, but the levels that we can take and that we can take to the next round is based on our memory. When we remember things and when we can use the information that we remember in terms of our own consciousness, and then propel ourselves in further in life, and take it to the next step, is really a game changer, I think. And at the same time, I think memory is that thing that almost is like time, I would say, because however, when you remember things, it's difficult to tell in which at what moment it was made, because in our mind all the memories are basically like a database, and you don't always subjectively feel the running of time. But still, I think it's just interesting how memory and accumulation of knowledge and information actually applies all the things that we know about, and we can build upon that. So memory is definitely an interesting phenomenon for me to think about too. So yeah,
So
good.
it seems that we're binary and we're biological at the same time. If consciousness is binary and biological at the same time, then Elon's neural link, where we could download our brain housing group, consciousness and all, onto media and survive in the metaverse for eternity, is a concept that may be feasible.
Yeah.
Not just our bodies deteriorating and
Yeah. Just transferring.
That's your eternal life, downloading your consciousness on the media and storing it on terabytes for.
That's the good question. What is a consciousness of a person? Because you can download the memory that I was talking about, but it doesn't always necessarily make you conscious. I think what is consciousness is one of the most difficult questions in the world right now.
Self-awareness.
There is no answer to that. What is self-awareness? So we always, and because we are so self-centered, like humans, we think that we're best in the world of animal kingdom and everything, and we just don't pay attention. So ignorance, pushes us to the thought that we are like superior to other creatures. But there are so many other things that we never pay attention to, and we don't think that we should learn from nature. For example, some creatures are almost immortal, and some creatures are able to regenerate so quickly, and their bodies. I just read a book today, and I remembered about the case with axolotls. These are like little salamanders, and if you cut any part of their body, they can regenerate very quickly, and babies in the stem cell period of their development. But the interesting thing is that when they cut off their heads, they could still remember some things from their life. It was very interesting that the memory was not in their mind. It was, not in their brain, but it was, definitely not head, but their body could still remember some dangerous situations and positive places that they could get some more food at. So just interesting to think about different consciousness. Oh, Mardelaswar, you're back. Cool. Okay. So I see some reaction there, guys. So maybe would you like to add to any of these topics?
Yeah, I would certainly share. Can you hear me okay?
Let me give you a microphone to make sure that it's going to be good. Okay, Root. Yeah, you do have a microphone,
Can you
thanks
hear
to
me?
Mendes.
Testing.
Yeah.
How's that? Good?
Good. Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
it.
It's not very
First
crowded
time
today,
you're
so.
fast. Yeah, fascinating mention about memory at the body level, the cellular level, the consciousness level, and I think an interesting part of memory too is possibly the remembering of our connection to source, that all that is, that to the universe, right, to everything around us. I think that's also a possibility, and it's possible that we've forgotten that connection. So memory takes on a whole nother perspective when we think about the possibility that we've forgotten what's really going on. And I think this is possibly the world of almost like we've unremembering, like it's a world of distraction to keep us separate from each other and separate from all that is. So we've kind of forgotten perhaps what we are. So that's a whole nother way of looking at it. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts about that.
Any ideas? Would you like to add, guys?
I haven't really thought of that at that level of, memorization at the cellular. I mean, but it's there. It has to be there, right? It has to be a part of it. That's why I say that. That's why I don't think it's just randomness, because I feel like we'd be better. Like I see other creatures grow over time. I mean, I guess we are kind of growing and evolving. I don't know. I just think it would be better if we weren't. Maybe we were tampered with. That's why I hesitate on maybe putting my consciousness into something, because what if I'm taking myself out of the natural flow of things? What if I'm doing that? But what if I'm also or what if it's part of the progress? I'm supposed to get to that point where I'm able to transfer my consciousness, but I also fear that, maybe it's a trap. Maybe I'm supposed to stay in the natural thing and go through my cycle and be re-brought back up through whatever the flow is now, and not tamper with that. So I don't know. That's what makes me, I'm iffy on it.
Yeah, I like that response. I was just going to add one more thing. What I was sharing had much to do about the spiritual and remembering, not any particular faith belief, but the unremembering of reality in a way. So I play in obviously this realm of at the cellular level here at Earth, but I'm also trying to remember that maybe there's also a bigger thing going on that we don't quite understand, or that I don't quite understand. And in that not understanding, I'm allowing myself to evolve into all possibilities, right?
Exactly. Yes. Actually, the point that you asked was exactly one of the topics of my, thinking process, because I remember that I actually remembered about this point when we were talking about the stardust, right, Evan? About the carbon that is like all life on Earth. Well, not all of it, but the majority of organic life is based on carbon, and carbon was actually created in stars, and that's why when it started, during the Big Bang, and later on it started forming the planets and like that. Carbon was a base for life to be created, because carbon is so friendly and it has so many different connections. And I thought about, the memory that we might have. And when you extrapolate these thoughts, you think, oh, I have a physical memory in my brain, but also my body has the memory. Take the DNA, which is, it's not just speculation. It's something that could be, considered in different dimensions. Like, for example, our DNA stores some information, and our knowledge being accumulated and held by AI reveals more and more secrets every single day. Like, for example, the genome editing technologies that we have, and even before that, when you think about the I liked how what was that, Sadhguru, I think he has some smart answers to some questions, when he said you might remember some things in your memory, but they're limited to your lifetime, and not even the whole lifetime, and they're so fragile, those memories. I remember those research experiments where they showed that 25% of the memories could be implemented into a person. Like, that could be, people could be convinced that these are their memories. In fact, these memories were false. but he said, but your nose still remembers. It's the nose of your, grandfather who lived like hundreds of years ago. And in order for you to be alive today, I think that all those steps in your, family tree and in your just the whole evolution process had to be, successful for you to be alive today. Isn't that a magical moment in itself? Just being born is an achievement of its own. And
Yes.
speaking of which, if you take it further and imagine that maybe we can use the DNA information to imagine how all the different scenarios of our birth and development could be changed. Like with my language students, I once had this experiment when I asked them to imagine that they would be born with a different, same family, same level of, whatever social development and anything, but they would just have a different gender. I mean, females would become males, and that changes the perspective so much that priorities would be different at that time. And well, because we live in the location that still has like that traditional values and difference between genders and not that much of diversity, I would say, as it's possible. Are you leaving, Ruth? Oh, you're still there. Okay. Sorry, I thought that you.
I actually, and I apologize to all of you. I'd love to be here longer. I have to go help somebody move.
Sure,
And
yeah,
I'm
that
looking
good
down
help,
the
good
clock,
help to the real
Oh,
world.
It's not. Thank you.
Yeah,
What
keep
a
go-
great joy to be here.
Oh, pleasure to see you. We are here every Saturday, so maybe you'll have a chance to join us and watch the previous episode.
That would be
Yeah,
great.
thanks for
That'd be
great
great.
thoughts. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you.
Well, thanks for
You
having
know,
me today.
Aziz,
Mhm.
the notion that DNA is very, very similar to coding. For instance, Michio Kaku, the astrophysicist, stated that every 5 years, every cell in your body has been totally replenished.
Yeah.
So you're not even the same you after just 5 years of human years. Every cell in your body, from your brain to your toe, has been replenished. So the coding of life could be, who's to say it's not a simulation? I'm not saying we're living in a computer or augmented reality, but it is written. DNA is code, and we share the same code with every living species on the planet. So, I mean, and the code tells the cells how to regenerate, what to do. It's the binary instructions of life. So those binary instructions could be downloaded and everything. Yes, you could manipulate it. So I'm not saying do a full-blown. Some people will be against this doing a brain transplant, for instance. I know
Yeah,
that
the majority of
is
yes.
doing a heart transplant today, but can we recreate tissue and everything if we have the code? Can we regenerate body parts if we have the code? I mean, I may be getting into a morbid realm, but how does that intertwine with consciousness? You can create even like Michio Kaku is stating, every cell in your body is regenerated and you become a new person after 5 years. Not the same old you, but that consciousness is still there. And even after I die, that consciousness is regenerated into another living human being or another living species. So
And-
it's very, very complex.
Yeah, and just the thought that maybe my speculations almost always come back to to another scenario where I would take my consciousness, let's say, and memory and everything that is essentially me, and it's going to be part of understanding what consciousness is. But I imagine that what if we could transfer these things into cybernetic bodies, for example, synthetic bodies? Would that would definitely change the way we think and the way we feel, the way we perceive the space, because feeling would be so different. Maybe, well, everybody would probably think that worse, but what if it's better? For example, we would never be able to learn so much about us the universe if we didn't have all these tools to see more, to feel more, to test more. So maybe there's a chance for us to continue our experience. I would say, if I come back to the meaning of life, I would say that today the biggest the version that I like most is just our goal is just to be born and experience things in our bodies the way we are given to. So we have these, this data that is given to us as a starting point, and our goal is to get as much experience as possible in given reality and given, possibilities, opportunities, and timing that we have. So I think that's, to me, it's very optimistic, because you don't have to think about the next life. You don't have to think about your death or all those fears. You just concentrate on what you have right now, and you want to make your experience as how do I say, interesting and as rich as possible. So that's my version of the meaning of life today. And maybe having some impact on the world, because you interact with it so much. Maybe through your experience, it's like a double-sided interaction where you learn from the world, but at the same time you influence the world just by existing and doing your own stuff. So who knows? Curious. Marta Lesoir, you're not very talkative today. Would you like to express any thoughts about education or anything else? Oh, did you raise your hand?
My headphones not. By accident, my headphones not working right.
Got it. Did you say it has some problems, or was it like a low battery and you had to attach to the charger?
Yeah, I've got it.
Maybe
It's
heat.
still I may wind up leaving it by accident anyway, because the battery's still pretty low. So
Maybe it's because I think
got it
sometimes
plugged
it's getting hot, and maybe that's why it's interfering with the quality.
Yeah, my shit overheats.
But yeah, I'm just kind of wondering what's going to happen with this thing. So I'm
Got it. If you feel
listening to
uncomfortable,
everybody right now.
yeah, we can skip. But yeah, anyway. So I see some new faces. Haven't seen Sam for a year. And Nighty Night, hi. Lexify, by the way. I think I've seen you like few maybe months ago. So what do you guys think about education and how VR could be implemented into our systems? Or maybe Olex, also I didn't ask your opinion. So anything about the education, or just these matters that we discussed? Memory and DNA, life, purpose of life, meaning of life. Any of those topics are always on
I
toe.
hadn't thought about education in VR. That was, I think it adds like a new. So in VR, you have like your hands and arms, and we can be worlds apart and go through a bunch more of like different types of educational material, because you don't have to. You can say like shake your head no, like someone doesn't have to like speak your language or anything. There's ways to communicate physically through this medium that's different than like Zoom or whatever, or like a phone call or the audio thing. So I mean, I think it's a lot more possibilities to explore, even as going far as, I don't know, maybe like some sort of obstacle thing that, even mental obstacle courses, right? You can create a space. I mean, I just think it's a lot that can be applied to it. That's all.
Yeah, I think there's already ongoing research. Maybe a year ago or something, I was searching for some interesting projects, and I found that I think in the MIT lab or something, there's a lady who uses a VR for different types of training. Like you learn to control your hands at first, and then later you try to control the imaginary tools, for example, like swords and everything. And then later on, I think she also used the not the EEG or something like that. So she could use her brain to practice different skills that are non-existent in the reality. So like different, imagine you could train your mind to control three 3 hands instead of 2 hands, or maybe some, you know, different obstacle, or like almost like telekinesis or something. So that kind of changes the way our brain works. And actually many different types of research with devices similar to Neuralink, actually, they help people with lost limbs, for example, or with disabilities to come back to, you know, to retrain their circuitry, like their nervous system to use their hands again and use their body parts, or maybe robotic body parts as well. So there's such an infinite world of skills you could acquire, right? Or train.
I think it also make a good use case for exploring historical locations, or just going over history and experiences in that matter, where someone can actually visually see something and you know, feel like you're a part of it, or whatever that may be.
Yeah, definitely. I always try to, I was not very interested in history when I was young, and I thought it was just a boring, you know, pile of facts, and it wasn't very curious. But when I look at the timelines and maps, that makes it so much more interesting. Like if we could see the time lapse of, like, for example, to see the migration of ancient people, maybe, right? The hunter-gatherers, or maybe to see the ecological changes of the planet, you know, on a globe, where you could really see what's going on. Or maybe there's so many opportunities for biology lessons, like you could, you know, show. I remember when I first jumped into VR, I think one of the first experiences I've seen was about COVID. One of the first doctors who faced COVID in California, I think, he shared his experience, and they showed like a huge, like a cell of an organism that is being attacked by the virus. I'm like, this is so amazing. It's so, you know, engaging in terms of education. You could learn how the, you know, cellular structures work, and just get some idea of how organisms function and all those marvels of life. Pretty cool. So I think virtually every part of science could be, you know, improved by VR applications.
Right. Well, I've been seeing advertisements for that. I think the guy was in here who actually made it, but to actually like walk through the human anatomy or explore the human anatomy in a VR app.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been seeing that a lot, and I know that guy was in here.
Yeah, I actually shared one of the like mobile applications with a similar function to one of my friends. She's a teacher of art, and she said, "Oh, I could use such things for my students for them to learn more about anatomy and like how to paint bodies more, you know, accurately, because they know more." Yeah. What about your thoughts about some other sciences? How could we improve them by using VR technologies? Do you have any ideas? We spoke about language, about geography. Oh, hello and welcome. Let me give you a megaphone, 99.
Sorry to jump in there, but yeah, sorry, I'm quite new to this group. I've been in here before, but you might not recognize me because I'm currently wearing the Frankenstein.
Okay. Nice to see you again then, anyway.
And you too. I was just thinking that in general, across all the sciences, some lines of research, for example, inside a volcano, are very dangerous. And using VR for a sense of telepresence remotely with a robot or something like that, to allow you to first-hand experience an event without actually putting yourself at risk, that could be a real good use of VR in general. I mean, it would be more of a sort of, I guess, more of a 360 feed, but if you had 2 VR cameras that were 180 that, you know, get you 3D as well, and if you get the resolution of the headsets high enough, they would completely remove that barrier, and you could just get on with the research. And if your robot had, you know, sufficient what's the word I'm looking for? Not automation, sufficient ability, for lack of a better word, then you could get a real sense of, you know, I mean, have you ever seen the film Surrogates? It's a really crap film, but it's got quite an interesting idea.
I've seen it.
The one with Bruce Willis in it.
Yeah. I remember that one.
They sort of have these avatars that they sort of operate in VR, something along those lines. And of course, you know, for a bonus, you know, anyone who's disabled, you you know, if you're wheelchair bound or stuck in a hospital, you can explore the world even though you are stuck in a bed. And if you add to that some kind of neural connection,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the sky's the limit, really. So yeah. That's
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
would
yeah.
say.
Every time I remember about this, Black Mirror and the episode with San Junipero, like an imaginary like VR world where elderly people could get in there and just hang out instead of being in their
Sure.
in their bed or.
That's a simulation. I meant interfacing with the real world, but
Mm.
it's the same idea, just in a different environment.
Yeah, as you said, like the sky is the limit. There's so many ideas. Yeah, let me add you as a friend, by the way.
A complete barrier of sort of like the cell phone freed us up in that I remember someone telling me this, and it always stuck in my head was before the mobile phone was a thing, the question "Where are you?" was kind of a strange thing to ask because you'd have to know where they were to be able to ask them the question.
Mm-hmm.
So it sort of freed up language a little bit, and I'm sure that's just one example. But the whole lines of thought have probably come out of this digital revolution. But we could be seeing another one where we are really has little to do with anything. It's not a barrier anymore. You could be in a virtual world, you could be in a physical world, you could be in something halfway between the two. Your reality can be what you want it to be, and that might be a good or bad thing. There could be people who shut themselves away, but you have to look at the positives. With any new technology, there's always people who are, not necessarily going to exploit it, but find their own, misuse it for, maybe.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's always that. Mhm.
Humans are humans.
I'm rambling now, so I'm going to shut up. But anyway, yeah.
There you go. Good, man.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That's always I love when the atmosphere is like more active and people are talking. And we have a comparatively like not a crowded event today, so yeah, but it's gonna be enough for everybody to speak. So I see some new people here, and I believe a couple of you guys are like still. Some of my students I think joined, so they them. Are you there? Would you like to share something about the education and how VR could be implemented into it?
Yes, we're here.
Great.
We came. So basically, I think that
Let me give you a megaphone.
the VR system is very interesting as idea in education. We can use it to various things. And for example, in 2020, when there were an COVID thing, it was really difficult for students to participate classes. But if everyone will have the access to this new technology, this can be really useful for future students to make real classes at their home.
And just to interact in so many different ways, because I think that using Zoom is a good step from like nothing to something similar to VR, because I think that's one of the side effects, I think, of the pandemic, that people got more, they were isolated, and that's why they couldn't go to universities, as you mentioned. And but due to that, they got used to technologies a little bit more. And probably it's a good start to take them to some new worlds of education, for example, not only to make it similar to our traditional education, but to take it way beyond that point and learn inside VR. And even there are many more, advancements in VR headsets. Now you can work and use your desktop inside VR and integrate different systems. And I think education of the future is going to be so much more interesting to get into. Just the fact that it's more, it has more influence on our brain. I think it activates the parts that would be more effective in education. Thanks for sharing. Any other thoughts? Okay, Lexify. Alex, you are a little bit silent today. If you want to keep it that way, or no?
Okay.
Lexify.
I could speak. I could say something.
Go ahead. megaphone your way?
Oh yeah, so
Yeah.
the VR could be used for like prisoners to teach them how to be social.
Wow,
Update them to like know what to do in today's time, and maybe they could change once they leave. I don't know. VR could. I believe VR is the future, definitely. But I don't know. We haven't done much with it. I'd say it's recently new. So there's a lot of potential to it. So this is just a starting point. I believe we could do a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
I think so too.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about AR. Like we could integrate the technologies into the real world with overlay of reality, and the metaverse could be integrated into everyday world easily. Everything we do with our phones could be integrated into AR glasses or VR glasses or some mix of both. Because VR is not always very practical. You have to take, time and have a room for VR and the time for VR.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's taking you to another world.
AR concept would be powerful in education.
Yeah, speaking of prisoners.
Yellowsword did have his hand up.
Very good point. And I noticed that many people have, for example, with autism or social anxiety, they find VR much more comfortable because they can overcome their fears and inability to read, physical cues like the body language. Here, there's no body language, and for them, it's easier to be in such spaces, and they open up much more. And there's many examples that even I heard from real people. Okay, let's get next. Mardelosoir, were you ready to speak or something?
Yeah, okay. Has anyone else been following this Zuckerberg thing in the news? He's lost, I think,
billions.
Yeah, billions of dollars investing in VR. I mean, and stockholders are upset, and which, I guess from their point of view, I don't blame him. But I think it is underutilized. I think there's a lot of hostility towards VR, the technology involved. The guy that runs Twitter was saying he didn't want to live life inside a computer. Which I get what he's saying, but that's it. Games is what people seem to think it's all about. They haven't really seen the other opportunities that. Yeah, we're all cartoons and. There's so much. I think there's just a lot of hostility that goes along that people have with it that haven't really tried it. I mean, I admit I don't use it as much as I used to. The wow factor's kind of gone now. I'm not. When I first got it, I thought, wow, this is incredible. But now that I'm kind of used to it and everything, but I can go, there are apps where I can visit other planets or attend meetings like this. There is so much potential here, and I'd like to see it grow. I mean,
yeah, I think
I don't know what I'd do I don't know what I'd do if I was in Zuckerberg's position, losing that much money. I'd probably get out of the whole business, but I'm glad he's not, but, it's his money, not mine. So if he wants to spend it developing VR, I'll go for it.
Yeah, why not?
When computers first came out, people, I was the same way. I thought, what do I need a computer for? Well, now look at me.
Yeah. I think technology is sometimes difficult to approach because people don't like. Well, learning is a very calorie and consuming and time consuming process. That's why people are reluctant to learn sometimes, and that's initially maybe one of the subconscious reasons why people don't want to use new technologies. Even when I get my new phone, I get nervous for like almost a week. Like, it's so different? Why does it's like I always complain about these new functions and all that. But I think it's part of developing, learning.
The younger people seem to be more open to these kind of things, and I'm going on 70 years old, so people my age I don't want anything to do with this. They pretty I mean, you know, I don't know, maybe it's the idea of having to learn a new skill or something new, but personally, I embrace it. I mean, I grew up with hoping for stuff like this. When the future came around, well, it's finally here. You know, I mean,
Yay.
you may not have flying cars, but I can fly in VR, so, you know.
Fly in VR.
Yeah. So, you know, it's just a matter, maybe, you know, as time goes on and people younger people get older and more younger people come into the world, that, you know, maybe this will become more popular and people more accepted, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But that's just something time will tell.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think younger generations, they take it for granted. I'm not take it for granted. I mean, they see it as something that is here and has been here before, and they integrate it into it a little bit more, I think, than even us. Like the millennials, I think there are like, you know, immigrants in the world of technology, so in the internet. But yeah, Evan, how do I pronounce your name, by the way? Evan or Evan? Evan. Okay, so let me give you a megaphone.
Like Kevin.
Evan.
Oh, Kevin.
Common household name like Forrest Gump, but some Evan. You know, in fairness to Zuckerberg, what I would say is he hasn't lost billions of dollars in his Oculus headset. Or he's lost it just in the actual ecosystem app that he has for VR. And to me, I've been on VR since 2015, and like I was saying, there's a lot of barriers that marketing has put in place of why VR hasn't taken off like a rocket ship. Like putting disclaimers on the side of the boxes, like I was telling you in California, that says, you know, the headset can cause reproductive harm. Right off the bat, my wife and my daughters want nothing to do with VR. They tried it once or twice, it made them dizzy. I'm in my late 40s, pushing 50. I know that's not that as old as you know, others, but my eyesight has faltered too. So I need reading glasses, these kind of things. Then unless you have a Facebook headset, you're not really going to be using his app. And that's the big mistake that I think Zuckerberg's making. People should be able to get on his Horizon app even if they're on a computer, for example. No, you need the Facebook headset. So he's limited himself. Where on my VR headset that I have attached to my computer, you got to remember that the Rift, the Oculus Rift came out in 2015, the TK1. You could get on a computer and right off the bat, you could use many different things. From my Samsung cell phone, I was using, you know, AltSpace, to my computer I was using. It's more cross-platform device supported, where he just has it supported for his headset only, which is, you know, he's shooting his own self in the foot. It has nothing to do with the VR technology in and of itself. But make it user-friendly, these kind of things. It does look kind of, for me, almost 50 years old, it is kind of Mickey Mouse to me. It's a lot of kids running, where AltSpace seems to be more inquisitive, more intellectually savvy, on more of a mature type audience platform, where intellectuals can come together and do things. And yeah, where, you know, it does look like a game and a lot of fun and the metaverse. And I do think that Zuckerberg stole the whole word metaverse. Metaverse doesn't encompass VR. He jacked it. VR has been around for years, way before Zuckerberg came on the scene with his metaverse. So it's probably like, I mean, honestly, it's lower resolution and lower scale quality than Rec Room is, to me, to be honest with you. If you look at some of these other...
Or VR chat, for example.
Second Life, all these other advanced, that are very advanced VR, you need technology to be able to push those type of apps. And honestly, while the Oculus headset also here is relatively affordable for many citizens in the U.S. and other developed countries, it's not such the case in countries that are undeveloped. For instance, parts of Africa, parts of India, $300 is a month's pay there. They don't just have $300-400 that they'll throw away on a headset. So that's some of the marketing as well. Not every one of these regions has internet. So there's a lot of different reasons why VR hasn't taken off. Even during the pandemic, like you would have thought with people being confined at home and everything, VR would have really, you know, but it just hasn't. And I mean, it takes time. I mean,
it does. Like
well,
some
you
of
see
my
on the world, it's only the most developed places with the actual
With
people,
VR.
so,
Yeah, it's only the most developed countries that could actually afford to be able to buy the headset.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean,
And yeah.
$300 is a lot of money a month in India.
and-
That's what they make. They don't make much at all.
Exactly, and Facebook, as you said, because they try to like limit the new users. China has a huge population, and they're not all I think they have more of a middle class
Damn,
people that can afford it, but they have the firewall and all the limitations with that with Facebook and Russia being now like cut off the Facebook and some like of the products of Facebook like Meta company. Yeah, it kind of limits people entering the VR, and many of my friends, they're surprised why the resolution and the graphics is not as good as so many other platforms in 2D. They're like, what's stopping these?
Altspace is better than their app. If you look at the resolution, you look at the worlds and Altspace. I'm just looking at this as a consumer. I'm just a game player. So I'm just going on there to have fun. To me, it really looks. Yeah, when I first looked at it, and I'm like, man, this guy dumped billions of dollars into this. I can see the Facebook headset and everything, but the worlds look very placid to me. The colors, the texture, and then it's kind of buggy, moving around. There's that. It's not structured. And that Altspace had a head start, with Microsoft funding it. That maybe Facebook should have took. They should have taken some notes. I think from Altspace. But
Yeah,
that's just my opinion.
good comment, because I have a feeling that Facebook has a very different agenda from Google and YouTube and all those other products on side of Google, because the even Microsoft, because Facebook is more of a money approach, and just remember where it started. Facebook choosing girls that are attractive and boys who are attractive or not attractive, like Tinder at that time. And it's the principle, the way you do anything, it's the way you do everything, as they say. So I think that kind of shows, and those lawsuits that Facebook had with courts and all that. It seems like Facebook doesn't always persuade the goals that are for development and sharing knowledge and something. It's more of a commercial-based approach a little bit, which is a little bit disturbing because it's everywhere, and we use WhatsApp and Facebook and all that.
They did straight up hijack the VR. VR has been around for years. It's way bigger than any metaverse. Metaverse is just one single app. No more than VR chat, no more than Altspace, no more than all these other apps that you can use. It's just an app. No more, no less.
Well, they
Selfie did a good job on, but there's other headsets now that you can buy that rival the Quest 2. For example, the Pico headset.
yeah, there are like many.
Pico,
There's
the
other-
Magic Leap.
Yeah, the Magic Leap. I mean, there's other headsets. So I think that he needs to put his focus on developing the app a lot more to where it's more intuitive for people to. It just looks kind of buggy and it looks Mickey Mouse. That's the way I'd be able to describe it.
Yeah, I think the idea of the metaverse was to unite all the different platforms in the world and to be the space, right? Where everybody's united into this layer of the world. But unfortunately, it's just the early days, and now everybody's just want to try on this fashionable word. Oh, we are the metaverse and blah blah blah, and people like using these words to attract more attention. It's more of about hype, I think, than about the real stuff. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Like with NFT, I think it has so much potential. The blockchain has so much potential, but it went, I think, the wrong way, where people could just like use NFT for any kind of digital production. I wouldn't even use art for all of it, because not all of it is good art. Well, just my personal
Or
opinion.
it feeds the underground black market of not reporting monies and then supporting cartels and other. You could just trade using this made up currency. You don't got to report it to anybody, so you can move illegal products.
Yeah.
pay
Well,
using.
True. Yeah, so many interesting aspects. So let's come back to education and have some other have a look at some other spheres that we could, maybe some new things that we could teach, for example, that was impossible in our conventional education system. Is there anything new that we could share or learn through VR? What do you think, guys? I think, well, my event is just one of the examples what could be. I didn't expect, when me and Mendes, we started this, I didn't expect it to be so different from the initial idea. We just wanted to gather and discuss little things, but then it turned out that it has become a shared space of ideas and discussion and some search of spirituality and science and development and collective understanding other people in their point of view. So yeah, I'm very happy that this is a new format for me of communication with people with all over the world, and that's pretty cool. So anybody else? Mystic, I'd love to see you again. Do you have? Oh, I see one hand raised, by the way. Anybody want to share their thoughts? Oh, Mardella Swire, but I think it was 16 minutes ago that time. So, any thoughts on education or any other points that we talked about today? Sam, would you like to share anything?
Yeah, I one idea I was thinking about was like surgery, like a bit like that guy was saying, where things are risky. You could, if the technology was there, you could, surgeons could learn how to do like heart operations without any danger of actually hurting someone.
And also, if you combine simulations into that, you can practice on people who aren't alive.
Anymore or yet?
Right.
And traveling to the Andromeda galaxy, because they're saying that they could pretty much get 3/4 to the speed of light to launch very small satellites to reach the next nearest star beyond our own star. If we can send probes out there that have artificial intelligence using VR, then we could visit, maybe we could make contact with, different life forms and these kind of things using VR and safety. Then.
On that surgery thing, I know they were using the AR aspect to assist surgeons while they're actually doing, what they do. I thought that was really cool. Where they're actually wearing it was the HoloLens, I seen it, but they also had like a smaller, I think it was the Leap.
HoloLens.
They were using that while they were doing surgery. I've seen it used in construction work, all types of different educational applications.
Definitely. Medicine is, I love how you mentioned medicine, because medicine has so much potential that could be, achieved. Even the AI could be integrated into VR, and that all together could be a very helpful tool for any doctor. For example, the AI technology uses the scanning of, visual scanning of the X-rays to ppredict the cancer, or I think with lung cancer they scan different scans of lungs, and the AI could pre-detect some of the signs of lung cancer, and then doctors could use that information to make sure that they have the diagnosis right. And I worked with a company that created an MRI scan in VR, so you could see the MRI picture in VR and see it in 3D to find out the details of the picture and of the brain structure. So many applications, as you guys mentioned, like surgery or just education of students, medical students, to learn more about the different systems. Pretty cool. So medical part. Any other spheres you would like to improve with VR? What about economy? We talked about medicine. We talked about... Sam and Mardella Swire, I see your hand raises. Oh, I think... okay, hold on a second. Oh, Sam, I think you spoke already, right?
I think mine's still raised from last time.
Okay. Mardella Swire, would you like to speak? Let me give you a megaphone.
Yeah, I'd like to see AR take off. Because I think, if we were an AR, you guys could all be in my living room right now. But right now it's such a. Yeah. They need to develop it more. It's what I've seen of it so far. I'm not overly impressed with. It's more black and white. It's just not. But I think once that takes off, and the headsets get lighter.
Yes, please. Exactly.
I think you know, that'll open up more doors for them, I think, because people will feel more, you know, if they could have a meeting like this in their own house and they feel at home, I think, you know, that's just a possibility they can look at. So, you know, this is a stepping stone, I think. I know they're supposed to come out with a new headset next year. And hopefully, maybe they'll develop the AR side of it a little bit more. I know Apple's trying, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'll probably buy the new headset.
Are you on the Pro on a Quest Pro, the $1,500?
No, I don't want the Pro. That's more for businesses, I think, and developers and that sort of thing.
Creators.
But the new one, the Quest 3 is supposed to come out sometime next year.
But it has eye tracking and everything, which the Quest 2 doesn't have. So it's like a $7,000 headset, people are saying, where it really tracks your eyes.
They can keep the price point down. But, you know, a lot of people aren't going to want to pay. It's like you said earlier, you know, people can't afford it.
They can't afford it.
But if they can keep I know that's why he's losing so much money. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes when I go to those meetings, but, you know, it's his money, not mine. So. He'll be all right, I'm sure.
Guys, I also have a hand raise from Max Fire, since he's new and he hasn't spoken before. Maybe Liv may give you a megaphone. Nighty Night and the rest of you guys, just check if you have megaphones. Yeah, just check it's not getting noisy. I think it's fine so far, but still. So Max Fire, hi. Thanks for adding me as a friend.
Hi. I apologize for coming in late, and I apologize for not taking part of the initial conversation, and thank you for letting me share.
No problem.
You know, but as
Mardelis Warsa?
As let's see, Mardelis War was saying with the AR, I'm using the Quest Pro, and some of the interesting features when I set it up was the AR side. So I got to set up my virtual space in my room, and it was really interesting because just like you're describing, it would be cool for all of us to meet up at a real location. And so I was able to turn on a lot of these features that I wasn't able to do before. And I was able to have like all my items in my room, and I can see everything really clearly with the color. And so I was able to like put my chair and my couch and all this kind of stuff. And I could walk around and see my room, but I could also incorporate all the VR stuff, these little portals. So I could have a portal to this meeting inside my own living room.
Cool.
And I could just walk over there and go through the portal. So
here's the metaverse. Early days of the metaverse. Yeah, I think that's the idea, to integrate everything into one layer, which is going to be, you know, connected to the real world as well. Yeah, I love interacting with my real world inside VR, like knowing where my table is and my sofa is just fun to I even once like experimented with putting the VR couch in the same spot where my real couch is, or some table where my real table was. So it's definitely creating more connection between the worlds in our mind, because our mind still is playing, you know, video game sitting in our, you know, head. So anyway, maybe we can enrich its experience to some extent. Okay, Marco, are you somewhere? Thanks for sharing. Always happy to see new people. If you're new to Theory of Everything, let me just share this little talk. Theory of Everything is a weekly talk show where people can join, and we have this open floor where you can share your thoughts and on a given topic, or maybe any other topic that you just feel like sharing about. And we create this interaction between people where personal connections can help each of us to hear some new ideas, new thoughts, and expand our own mindset. Yep, so that's the goal of Theory of Everything, and just to have fun and to share the space with you guys. I really enjoy talking to you and listening to everybody else, and just matching different opinions and learning more. But we are heading into close to our...
I'm sorry, I had to step away. One other sort of sector that I think AR could truly, or VR combination of, is tourism.
Oh, cool! Yeah,
if,
never thought about it.
Tourism. If you're able to sort of cater to a VR audience, like if you had someone that specifically organized a trip around VR and AR experiences. And if there was a focus too on folks that may have disabilities, limited mobility. We know right now that we're probably moving into a time where in America, I can speak only from the American perspective, where we're going to have a higher population of baby boomers than any other generation. And so if we can somehow tap into that market, as in addition to the tourism, but also tap into that market from the standpoint of ableism. I think also someone mentioned the medical field. I'm thinking from a simplistic standpoint of telemedicine. Right now, when I interact with my primary care physician, because of the pandemic, I can do it now via an app, but it's highly static. It's very bi-directional. So if there was somehow a component of telemedicine that dealt with AR or VR, I think that would also enhance the healthcare and medical field as well. But I truly, just to pivot back, I truly am highly interested in tourism and how it could be enhanced with the VR technology.
Definitely. Yeah, actually, I had a couple of interesting experiences by guiding people in Altspace because I had a big community of people who started joining VR, and somehow they thought that I'm more knowledgeable than them. And surprisingly, they asked me to show them around the VR. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, definitely. I added so many favorite worlds, and I just showed them around. And then the next week, they decided to jump into VR chat because people were more experienced at, and had more experience with VR chat. And it was a very fun, interesting experience. And there are so many other, dimensions that we haven't explored yet. So I'm very interested in getting into VR chat because they have different advantages. They don't have such in-depth conversations, but it's definitely interesting to create some worlds that are going to be visually more impressive than what we get in Altspace. They all are nice, and it's fun to exchange experience. It's cool. Okay, so we're heading into the close-up of our event. So we always can stay for a party, after party, and hang around more and discuss different things. So thanks for coming, guys. It's always a pleasure to see you guys, those who return and those who are new to Theory of Everything. So stay with us and see you next week. If you have any ideas on topics you would like to discuss, you can always message me or Mendes, or you can also, we still have that link, right? Mendes, is it working? Yeah, it's over here, right? So this little link is gonna take you to the browser, and you can suggest some ideas or leave some feedback for us. So. And yeah, always, as I mentioned, a YouTube channel and Discord. Discord is not super active, but on YouTube you can find some other topics that we discussed. So that way you can, see and maybe come back and ask for repetition, so we can discuss the same topics, but in a new way. Okay, I gotta run right now. Thanks for coming, and ciao, kakao.